Hi. Today's conversation is all about providing feedback. How do we provide feedback? What is the most appropriate and efficient way to provide feedback, especially in the medical writing world? This is the first of two conversations where we will discuss the importance of feedback etiquette. There's a common saying that goes, feedback is the breakfast of champions. It is the most important meal of the workday. And this is something which I find truly relevant because feedback is something which helps medical writers grow and evolve and to be better at the medical writing field. So let's talk about some ways in which we can provide feedback. The technique that I'd like to describe today is something which I have found extremely helpful in my career. It all fits within the acronym MAT, M-A-T, MAT. The M stands for messaging. Messaging is the what question, which is what is this document or what is this slide deck trying to say? It's the what question. Examples of messaging could include this device is safe for use in adults. That's an example of a message. A different message would include this drug or this medication is safe for use in children. That's an example of another message. Likewise, there are so many other messages that medical writers need to focus on. So the M component is about getting a sense of whether the overall objective, the overall message of that document or slide deck is being conveyed in a clear way without any confusion. So when providing feedback, I like to start by saying, this is the message, and then mention whether that message is being appropriately met or not. If it's not being met, it's always a good idea to provide some suggestions on what a medical writer can be doing in order to take many steps closer to achieving that overall objective of hitting that target and getting that message out correctly. If the message is being met, one important thing to do is to compliment the person and say, I think you did a great job on hitting the target on this message. We're saying exactly what we need to say. So well done, job well done. The A stands for articulation. Articulation is the how question, which is how something is being said. We talk about language, we talk about tone, we talk about word usage. All of this falls under articulation. If the language is too persuasive, or if the language is too technical, if the language is too simple, or if the language is using niche terminology which only some people in the audience can understand and not others, then that means the articulation needs to be modified in a way to suit the requirements of the reader. If the articulation is great, it's a good idea to compliment the person and say, it's really nice how this message is coming across in the right way that it needs to come across. If the articulation is somewhat improper and needs edits, it's a good idea to provide some feedback on how that needs to be tweaked, what language changes or changes in tone need to be made in order to get closer to addressing the how message. How should that message be conveyed in the most appropriate way to make it more engaging and informative and important to the reader. The T stands for technical feedback, which has everything to do with the basic techniques of writing. Sentence structure, composition, usage, grammar, format, all of the stuff that we learn as the ABCs in medical writing, that falls under technical feedback. And I find this format, MAT, extremely helpful because when someone reaches out to me via email and asks for feedback, I always structure my response email under these three categories. And I say, here is my feedback with reference to messaging, here's my feedback with reference to articulation, and here are some edits with reference to technique. As you begin to use this method more and more often in email, you might realize that it might come to you more naturally and become second nature to you. And this is something which I've observed with myself as well. So when someone even asks me for feedback verbally, I give them feedback under these three headings and they find it extremely helpful, very structured, very actionable, and they immediately get to work on trying to fix their presentation or slide deck in a way which puts them closer to hitting the target and getting the presentation or slide deck out in a way that it needs to be perceived. So think about this feedback method, and all the best.